ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the one, the only, Ebenezar Wikina.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to Active Citizens.
Thank you.
Ebenezar, I've been trying to get you on this show since forever.
I'm a huge fan of this show, really. I mean, social media people will tell you that I'm always retweeting all your guests and talking about the show. So I'm really happy to be here.
We are so honored that you could join us here, and I thank you for giving us that you were only in Abuja for 48 hours, and within that 48 hours you could fit us in.
Thank you. Thanks.
Truly appreciate it. I'm going to do a quick reading of his profile because I think if I ask him to introduce himself, he may just mention one or two things and then kind of like scan through everything else. So I'm going to read it because I think he has a very powerful and inspiring story. Ebenezar is the founder of Policy Shapers, a civic startup that empowers young people with the knowledge, skills, and tools to engage with public policy. He is also a senior partnership specialist at Nguvu Collective, a World Economic Forum expert, a senior category judge of the Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition, a trustee of the Sickle Cell Awareness and Health Foundation, a pioneer member of the British Council's UK Africa Youth Advisory Board, a founding member of the Open Government Youth Collective, and a thematic lead at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Over the past 3 years, he has led the Reform IELTS campaign, which seeks to end the practice of mandating Anglo-Africans to write English proficiency tests while seeking study or work opportunities abroad. So far, the campaign has mobilized over 82,000 supporters, engaged policymakers across Africa, Europe, and North America, and influenced policy changes in 30 universities around the world. Ebenezar is a Mandela Washington Fellow, Civic High Fellow, Bridge Fellow, and GIJN Fellow. He's also the winner of the first ever Sound City Africa MVP Award for Community Development, the Royal African Youth Leadership Award, and the NESG Exceptional Leadership Award. Guys, this is just to mention but a few. Mr. Wikina is an alumnus of the International Institute of Journalism, Abuja, the London School of Journalism, Harvard Kennedy School, Executive Education, and the Stanford Center for Professional Development. I had to read it all, Ebenezar. I know that you're cringing where you are. I can see that, but it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the introduction.
I should say that Ebenezar, our journey goes back to 2015. Did we agree, or 2014?
2014. I think it's
yes.
2014, late 2014. Yeah, early 2015. I think that's when we.
Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting story because I think late 2014, I just done a TEDx event, a TEDx youth event. That was one of the first times I was thinking of doing something that would bring some international attention to my city in Port Harcourt. At the time, there was so much negative stories out there. There was the militancy uprising, and there's so many things going on. So I just applied for that, and I finished that event. And then I stumbled on this thing called Global Shapers, and I was like, this thing looks really interesting, right? Then I go online to Google and check who are these Global Shapers people, and then I found that there's the Abuja hub, which is really active, and there's this amazing person called Bella, and there's Jake, and there's these people, and I just sent them friend requests online, and as I say, the long story short, that's how Bella and I connected.
Yeah.
We started a hub in Port Harcourt, and it's been a great hub over the past 7 years. We've been able to bring together so many young people from across the city, people from even outside of the city who love to come into Port Harcourt to come, do establish businesses there. So somehow we've been able to rewrite the narrative of, this is a very violent Port Harcourt to a place where Port Harcourt, you can have people doing TEDx events, you can have people starting businesses and starting shops and doing great things in the same city. Yeah, so that's how we met. So it was a really great experience. Yeah.
And the more I listen to you speak, Ebenezar, a lot of things actually pour back to my mind as far as how who was Ebenezar at the time that I met him. And I just realized that none of that even featured in the profile that I read.
True.
So one of the things that really blew my mind about this guy, I mean, forget about the profile that I read. When I met Ebenezar in 2015-ish, right? He had interviewed world leaders, right?
Yeah,
from the comfort of his little corner in Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
So he had this platform called The Stroll.
The Stroll, yeah.
Right? So he's a journalist,
Yeah.
by the way. His
Yeah.
background is journalism.
Yeah.
he had a platform called The Stroll, and on that platform, if you go on it, you just basically see interviews with, Ariana Washington, Huffington. Give me all the names.
Yeah, Amina Mohammed.
Amina Mohammed. This was like way back in the day before even you and I knew who Amina Mohammed was.
Yeah, Malala Yousafzai. Those people,
interviewed like all these exciting people. So when you go on that page and see those and read those interviews, the first thing that crosses your mind is, oh, this guy must have traveled around the world. But no.
Yeah,
Up until that point, he had actually never left the shores of River State.
Actually never gotten on a plane, actually, up until that point, 2015.
I mean,
not even local.
I remember that blew my mind. I was like, oh my goodness, the determination. And then I asked you, how do you know these people? I want you to share that story because I thought it was really, I was like, this is so cute. I was like, how? You've never left River State.
Yeah.
You've never come to Abuja, Lagos, nowhere.
Yeah.
How did you find those people? How did you find them?
Yeah, trust me, it's just from like reading and listening to the news, just like everybody else, right? Just like reading, I find someone really interesting. I'm like, this person really has a good story and inspires me, and I think it would inspire other people as well. And so I just like maybe find them on Facebook, like send them messages. Sometimes I even like write emails to them and have to like write the emails multiple times before they respond. It's just a lot of like effort. So just trying to know more about people, and I think that's what really like got me interested in the stroll. And the stroll really was interesting because I started podcasting then. I think that was like 2014. I don't think podcasting was a thing at the time.
It was not a thing.
So I started podcasting then, making videos, and then when I eventually got the opportunity to travel, I think that was for WEF, right? It was a huge
Abuja
thing.
first.
Abuja first. Actually, I came to Abuja first. I was shaping Davos, right?
Shaping Davos.
Abuja first, and then I got a chance to go to South Africa. And it was a good experience. I feel, the experiences I had and the knowledge I gained before I started to like travel and get experience sort of like prepared me for everything else, right? And just the desire to, and all of these things didn't come because like I put out money first, right? Like it came because like I just really wanted to tell a story, but I just wanted to like do something like volunteer for TEDx events or start a Wikipedia community in Port Harcourt or just give yourself out there, right? And I think that's how all those opportunities eventually came.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, even without me leading. I mean, that was really my first startup question post the intros was this platform, right? What we do on Active Citizens is basically to encourage people to think of a world outside of just themselves and how they can be agents of social change. And active citizens. And we say one way to do that is to start with volunteering. So I'm curious to know, in what ways has volunteering helped you or shaped or impacted your life and gotten you really to the place where you are now? How has that helped shape your personal and professional development?
No, it really has, because like growing up, I grew up as a very shy person, right? It's often like really scared to come out to talk to people or even have conversations with people. But I think even from volunteering in church, I remember like as far back as children department, I'll be in the choir. I had a terrible voice obviously, but I'll be in the choir. I'll do the ushering thing. There was even one of the children's Sunday where I was selected. I remember I think I was 9, going to 10 then. I was selected to like preach on that children's Sunday. I think it was the first time we were Chinese in church. And I remember coming home and just crying to my parents, like, why did they choose me? Why did I even go to church on this day? And I think just all of those experiences, right? People often think of volunteering as something really grand, but just giving your time, your expertise, being able to give, just giving something. It's often you can volunteer your skills, you can volunteer your expertise, your experience. So all of that, those learnings in church, I think just really like builds me up. And so coming out of secondary school, I found myself really just looking for something to give back. Like it sort of just came to me, just feeling like I could do a lot more than what I was doing. I wanted to get into university, I wanted to do all this thing, but I really just felt like I could do a lot more currently. I didn't have to like finish university first before I then go into the workspace. So that's how. I feel like I know almost every NGO in Port Harcourt because I've volunteered with almost all of them, most of them, and that's also helped to build my network. So now when I want to do projects or programs, I know who to call. I know who the right person is. I know even when they've moved to new organizations in Lagos or in Abuja, and I'm able to build a very good network. So that's giving me a lot of like network that's, those are things that you don't learn in school,
Yeah.
right? It's something that you need to physically go there to build, build relationship skills and everything. So that has been really great. It's also giving me a lot of like confidence too. Because when you go out, something where you're just always indoors, or you go from school to the house and church to the house. But when you're out there meeting people, new people, people from different walks of life, it gives you a lot of self-confidence in yourself. You sort of like tend to like become comfortable with your own story as well. Because people ask you about yourself. What do you do? What are you doing? How did you get here? And everything. So it is giving me a lot of that. Helping with public speaking as well. Like I said, I used to be very shy. So all of the platforms I've had to speak at, whether it's in the US or in the UK, led all the campaigns, all the things I've done, basically builds from just volunteering at small, starts with small groups, and then eventually grows into bigger audiences. So yeah, so it's giving me a lot of self-confidence in myself, in the work that I do, and just knowing that I'm giving something back. And I think the final point and the most important one is the fulfillment that comes from it. I think that that's something you cannot buy. Most people can, you can do a lot of things and not feel fulfilled. So I think just that sense of fulfillment that I'm actually just contributing something. I'm not just complaining, because with everything happening in the country, right? It's very easy to get into that cadence of just complaining every day about everything being bad and the country is just terrible. But are you doing something about it? I think it's Kennedy that says, ask what I do for my country, what my country can do for me. So I think just being able to feel like I'm doing something and I'm not just talking about it, I'm contributing something to the country, to the society, to my states, just makes me feel like I'm fulfilled. And it helps me sleep better. It helps me sleep better at night.
That's right. Let's move into the other aspect of you. There are many, you're like super multifaceted. So we're going to try to dissect all the angles. You are the founder of Policy Shapers.
Yeah.
And I know that in the last few months, actually a couple of years, since you started, you've done some exciting stuff with Policy Shapers. Can you share with our listeners the inspiration behind starting Policy Shapers, and how have you been able, or how have you seen it empower young people when it comes to engaging with public policy?
No, the funny thing is, Policy Shapers actually is one of the COVID projects. It was born during COVID, and I think this was June 2020. We were still locked down, things were still really tough and everything. And Harvard University because I just finished the program at Harvard University a year before, in 2019. So in 2020, they announced that they're doing this policy hackathon, and they're like inviting young people from around the world to apply. And so I just shared it on my own timeline to say, oh guys, I'm applying for this thing. Anybody wants to join me? So some random folks just reached out to say, hi, I'd love to join. Those random folks now are the team members of Policy Shapers. So we all randomly just on social media joined and formed the team. And then we took part in the hackathon. I think we worked in the education track, thinking of ways to keep the education sector in Nigeria going, just in case we have similar COVID, similar disruptions like COVID did in the future. So so we did that together, and it seemed like a lot of fun, right? And then just immediately after Harvard's own, then I think Stanford then announced to do another hackathon, just seeing the success of Harvard's hackathon. And I think for Stanford, we came third globally. And that's when we started to say, oh, wow, hold on, guys, we need to slow down and begin to think about this. This might mean something, right? And we said, if we were random people, I was working in development then, right? I was working with an organization that was supporting state governors in 9 states. So I did have some bit of policy expertise, but not so much as in writing policy briefs and everything. So if within 2 months we were able to build our skills in writing policy briefs by reading things online, doing some research and practicing in hackathons, what if we do something similar in Nigeria, right? And so by August of that year, we founded Policy Shapers. We built the websites, tacky websites from the scratch, in 2020, and got people to send in articles to us. We wrote some articles about the country and published our hackathon, policy briefs and everything. And as they say, the rest is history. The rest is history. And so that's how we began. That's how we began, the project. And I think one of the things that we've really seen, one project that we've really seen young people really just leading and stepping into their power has been through the Reform IELTS campaign. So in, I think it was late 2020, right? I'd applied to a university to do a business program. And I just felt like I wanted to do something business related. and I was thinking of starting a business at that time. So I applied to the university. I submitted like all of my degrees and everything, and they wrote back to me to say that they've seen everything. They even saw like the Harvard program I did, but they said that they don't think it's enough to prove that I can speak English.
Wow.
Meanwhile, we're having this conversation via email in English, right? So we're going back and forth. I'm like, why? You know, like this is my NECO, this is my WIAC, this is my, you know, all of my tertiary education certificates. And, you know, they still felt like, no. So angrily, I took it to Twitter and just said, like, this is what's happening. I've applied to this university and these guys are saying this. And the other people are just like, yes, me too. And everyone just comes online on this and keeps talking about it. And this was late 2020, right? By 2021, we then said, okay, people seem to have a similar experience with this issue. What if we start a campaign about it? And so that was our first project at Policy Shaper. So we thought about, we think hard on it for a couple of months, started a petition around it, started to share online, the media got involved. At some point, we were able to amass over 80,000 signatures on our petition. And just the sheer pressure of talking about it, arguing with it, we even started to write. So remember how I used to write to people for the show, right? We then started to write to the Home Office. So the Home Office is like the Interior Ministry for the UK. And they're the ones who sort of are in charge of a policy document called the Majority English Speaking Country List. And that list is the UK's list of countries that they believe can speak English.
Interesting.
And there's no African country on that list. There are 6 countries from the Caribbean, Jamaica, and all the Caribbean nations, right? And then, of course, there's England and Ireland and Australia and the US and Canada, but they don't have anybody in Africa or Asia.
Interesting.
Despite the fact that we're former British colonies and all our systems, our schools, our public service is built in English. So yeah, we saw that and thought, okay, this is a document that we need to ask for a review on. And so yeah, so that's how the campaign was launched. We wrote to them. First, they were not responding, but just the pressure from social media and everything that happened. They then responded to us. We sent them more information. I think where we got stuck was that they asked for the census document, a recent census document, to show that at least 50% of Nigeria's population is educated. And we sent the 2006 census and they said that was old.
Outdated.
And so yeah, so because so that's the only thing that is left, because we had sent data from NECO and JAMB and WIAC showing the rise over the past 3 years. There's been 5 million English credits, you know, that students have gotten from sitting for this exam. So we had all this data sent to them, wrote policy briefs around it, and again, we just got random young people. It's not like we had policy experts from anywhere. It was just young people who said, you know, I have the same issue, I want to join you. How can we do something about it? You know, so we shared the same resources that we learned when we were learning how to do our policy hackathon. Shared the same resources with them. They joined the task force, and that's how we all worked on this thing together.
That's very interesting. Wow, look at that.
So yeah, so while engaging the UK, we also started to engage universities, because we then thought, okay, everything is demand and supply, right? So who usually demands for this test more? And we found that our universities were on the top of the list. So we then came up with a letter template. And then we know that there are Nigerians in all of the schools, and so we said, okay, if you're in a university, can you help us be like an ambassador for the campaign? Engage. I mean, they know you, they see that you do really well, right? So I feel if you engage them, you know, we have a higher chance of you winning with them. And so now 30 universities have changed their policies. That's
amazing.
Yeah, 30 universities. So you have young Nigerians in Australia and Canada and all the places, people that we don't even know, right? But just because of social media, we've been able to amass them together, and we're all in the same WhatsApp group, talking about the next university to change and the next university to change, and just writing.
That is powerful. What a story. And, you know, as you spoke about this, what came to my mind was you literally took us through the A to Z of activism, right? How do you identify an issue? Because most times people just wonder, where do we start, right? It started with your own personal story. You don't have to look too far. Sometimes the problem that needs to be addressed within our society it's something that affects you as an individual or affects the person next to you. Don't try to find something too far away. It has to be relatable, right? So identify this problem. And then you also looked around and said, okay, who else has this problem, right? Because it's not going to be a campaign and a successful campaign if it's only pinching, if you're the only one whose statue is pinching, right?
Exactly.
So to be able to create that overwhelming, you know, support or wave of support, you need other people to also identify with this issue. So this is literally like activism 101.
Exactly. So that's basically how the movement started. And that's how far we've been able to come with engaging young people. So we've seen young people like lead this. So that's when people say, like in Nigeria, youth only complain. Yes, I get that. I see a lot of that online. But I've been able to also see another group of young people who are not just complaining.
Who are taking action.
Who are actually taking action. People even who are in the diaspora who really shouldn't care about Nigeria anymore. But are saying, yeah, if this is happening, I want to do something about it, and already engaging people and stuff. And I think that's what really inspires me. And I think that if we can really get a sizable crop of our population to be able to feel just as active citizens doing, to make people feel like they do have a role to play, I think we'll really be able to change so many things. Because, Nigeria has a leadership problem, but I think we also do have a followership problem.
That's right.
Right? And
That's
I think if we can fix one of them,
a bigger followership problem.
We'll put the pressure on the leaders to be able to
That's
change, because leaders usually mirror us as a people. So I think if we can really change that followership problem and get us to really care and want to change things, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
That's
This is 30 and many more to go, but I know that with the determination of the team leading this, I trust that we're going to be able to see massive changes in these systems globally. So really, thank you for pushing for that campaign.
Thank you. And there's so many other issues that that many people within the team, within the community as policy shapers. You've been part of some of our policy hackathons. So many issues that many young people think that need to be addressed around unemployment and healthcare. So we're trying to work with them to also see how they can build similar movements around these issues and engage the government to be able to change them, and also even begin to do things on their own that they can do as a sort of like a model to say, hi government, if I can do this, you should be doing better, right? And show that they can be the change that they want to see.
And I know that policy shapers, you've actually focused on sort of having conversations around the topical issues.
Yes.
Because I remember your last hackathon, or one of the recent hackathons you had, you were talking about the education, the student loan, program, which at the time was literally just had just been announced by the federal government. But it was really interesting to see young college students, recent graduates, just sort of coming together to think about the policy and think about how it was going to be effective, or what are some of the tweaks that need to happen. And I also remember that when they had the call for people to engage in that bill at National Assembly, you also got involved. So it's such an important thing you're leading with policy shapers, getting young people to think about how to have a seat at the table of decision making. Even before those decisions are made, how are they formed? What kinds of how can you have an input, or a say in those conversations before they become, fully fledged? So truly, I commend you.
That's the vision for us, and it gets quite tough. Sometimes it gets quite tough, especially when we want to see the passion of young people not dwindle, because you want things to move really fast.
Want a quick win.
You want them to see quick win, so that they feel like they've done something and they want to keep pushing, right? It gets
the
quite
energy
tough.
They need to keep going.
But that's why the community is there, and I feel like people who listen frequently to the Active Citizen show also, their community, whether or not they know their community, and I think listening to other people's stories and seeing that it has worked before, just gives you that drive that it's possible for this thing to work if I actually keep trying. And so we motivate ourselves. When people feel dejected, we tell ourselves, yes, it can be sad, but we have to keep trying.
That's right.
And that's what community does for us.
That's right.
At Nguvu Collective, so Nguvu, it means power in Swahili, right? And the power, it means the Power Collective. We're trying to see how we can help young people, women, who care about so many issues that affect them, and are willing to take a step further to say, I want to start a campaign on this particular issue. How do they find a community? How do they find help? How do they even get support in thinking around engaging the right decision maker, engaging media, going to writing opinion editorials, just giving them the kind of support that they need. And so we were thinking about a creative way to mark Women's History Month and also to raise awareness on gender-based violence and all the issues around women's rights in Nigeria. The gender bills as well are there as well. So we thought about a Red Shoe campaign. We've done many things online, right? And we thought, okay, let's do something physical, something that women would love, people would come around. And so we thought of a Red Shoe campaign where people would come with red shoes and place those shoes as a symbol of a protest against all the issues and all the things that plague women in Nigeria today. Take pictures, share that, engage with other women activists who are working on these similar issues, share ideas, share knowledge, read the story exhibition by one of our partners, the Dorothy Njamezi Foundation, you know, learn more about the work that they're doing, and just have a space where people can feel like they're safe enough to share. And so that was what we did today. From 10 a.m. till about 2 p.m. We had women coming, we had people who we call chain leaders, that's people who work with to start their campaigns, women, young men, male allies who really want to support women and are like he for she's and really are feminist as well. Right. And I'm also really happy to support the campaign. So we had everybody come around. We had a great time, you know, just talking about the issues that plague us and, you know, thinking of the solutions, because it's easy to focus on the problem most times and not really talk about the solution. Right. Yeah, but we had a good time to talk about the solutions. We had people from all age range, you know, from different classes, talk about the experience they've had in women's movements in the past and currently and what they think we can do better. And so it was really, really a good space. So we hope to do more. We really hope we can explore different ways to campaign, because when we think of campaigning in Nigeria, often people think of protests or strikes. Yes. Right. But we're thinking of how we can begin to even include arts and include, you know, cultural music. You know, how we campaign using music and involve all of these things to campaign in a way that connects to people very, very, you know, directly in the country today.
That is so powerful. I had the opportunity to be at the campaign this afternoon. I'll be, you know, late, but I wore my red shoes today to work because I really wanted to show up there and support the work that the foundation was doing. And is that exhibit still open, by the way?
It is. So if people want to go in there all through for the rest of this week, feel free. Weekend next week, feel free to go to the Dorothy Njamezi Foundation. Be able to check out the stories. The Red Shoe banner is there. You'll be able to take pictures as well, and then use the hashtag Red Shoe Campaign, you know, to join the conversation.
And the stories you will see on that platform would it would outstart, like you would be shocked.
You'll be startled. You'll be completely startled.
You'll be completely shocked. So I strongly encourage you, if you're still thinking of what are some of the ways you can commemorate Women's History Month, you may want to check out the Dorothy Njamezi Foundation. It's called the Human Matter exhibit.
Yes, Human Matter.
But now it's been sort of also laced with the red shoes, sort of give it a little bit more. It puts another angle, you know, to it as well. So really do check that out. And again, thanking Google Collective for, you know, helping to champion this movement here. Ebenezar, my last question for you today will be: as someone who has been involved in various initiatives and organizations, how do you balance your roles and responsibilities? And what advice would you give to young activists who are striving to make a difference?
I mean, balance is very key, right? Especially because there's also family life. I also have a role as a husband to take care of my wife as well, right? And I'm also a son to my parents. So there's all of that, and I'm sort of a person who believes in planning a whole lot. So I do my best to plan many things in advance. So sometimes I have, you know, 5 days ahead plan. I know what I should do each day. I mean, I have the recurring things, but I know the new things I should be doing each day. And and I make sure that I use time well. Wake up when I should wake up early. You know, I have time to actually have fun because I'm a huge football fan as well. So I also have time to watch football. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I watch football as well and cheer for my club. You know, when we lose, feel bad. You know, you know, and all that. But yeah, I think it's just about planning. I use a lot of like to-do lists and organizers and, you know, calendar invites to be able to like set things in place so that I know what I should be doing next. As for advice to young activists, I mean the ultimate advice really, I think is what we said earlier around campaigning, is for us to begin to think a lot more creatively. I think that I fully understand how depressing it can be when it feels like the only outlet for us is protests, right? And following EndSARS and most of the challenges that we've had post EndSARS, trying to gather people together physically, it does feel like you know, it feels like we're not making much progress, right? You know, but I think just thinking a bit more creatively, I think, is what I think we need to really do. And using lobbying, I always talk about the Not Too Young to Run movement, which Bella knows so much. I hope you talk about the movement on the show one of these days. Maybe get one of the conveners to come talk about
to talk
it,
about
right?
it for sure, definitely.
Because the movement is really one of the holy grail of campaigning in Nigeria, and how we were able to use not just like social media and process, but also use lobbying as well as a means. And I think, you know, finding ways to come closer to government as well, I think is one of the things that we can do. You know, go to that minister's office. Really, just sometimes try. Just send a letter. Try. You just go in there, you know, and say you want to see this person. You know, and I think just the use of lobbying can be really good. And I think that that's one thing we need to do to close the gap between, you know, active citizens and also decision makers. To be able to go in there closely and try that, because not too young to run, leverage that a whole lot, and we're able to achieve a whole lot of success using that in addition to other means as well. So I think just thinking creatively, I think that's the challenge that we also at Nguvu Collective are also thinking of every day. How do we think creatively beyond what we do every day? How do we add to the online campaigns and social media campaigns to ensure that we get a lot more success on our work as a young activist? So that's basically what I have to say.
I think there's a very key point you've raised, Ebenezar. If I can just dwell on what you said a moment ago about closing the gap between citizens and you know elected officials, is to say that, you know, you'll be surprised to find out how many, even our listeners, how many people don't know who their representatives are, right? So maybe that's the assignment I want to give. If you're listening to this conversation today, do us a favor, do you a favor, do me a favor, do Ebenezar a favor. Find out who your representative is. At the state level, at the state assembly, at the national level, who's your House of Rep member, who is your senator. Find out who these people are. Even at the local government level, who's representing you at these places. Find out who these representatives are, because how are you going to lobby,
if you
right, for change if you don't even know who these people are? That's the first place. Because we elected these individuals to be our mouths, our eyes, our ears in these positions. It is our responsibility, like you said earlier, if nobody is actively following and holding people accountable, the people who are there will feel comfortable, right? Because there's no heat on their, there's no heat under their skin. They're fine. They'll be cruising.
Like you guys don't care, so
when you wake up, we too will wake up.
Exactly.
Right. So really, the responsibility is more on the citizens to make sure that these individuals that you stood in line for hours to get elected, you make sure that you're on top of their case, so that they don't forget all those great promises they made before they got into office. So please, our advice to you, as you just take this as you walk away from this show today, go online, and there are places where you can find this information. Enough is Enough, for example,
has lots of information about.
You would find specific information, probably even down to phone number and email address.
You will actually find.
You will find that information. Bug these people, like message them. Hey, these are the policies we're interested in. What ask them about the budget line item. Whether it's education, whether it's whatever it is that is pinching you. Whatever it is you're feeling. Ask them. They are your go-to people. Before you say, "Oh, government is not doing their job," ask, reach out. Even budget as well. Budgit. If you want to find out how is government spending, if you want to, get a closer look at. What do those budget figures mean? Budget can be a little bit overwhelming, right? But budget does a fantastic job of sort of narrowing it down in bite-sized way,
brings it to us
in a way, bring it exactly you and I level in a way that you
using
can understand.
Infographics, using pictures, things that are colorful, so you can really easily just know, okay, education, this is how and what you're spending it on for the states, for the country, and everything. So
get acquainted with those organizations and the work they're doing, so that it can help you to feel more connected to your leadership. Ebenezar Wikina, I think this is a fine place to draw the line for the conversation today. I really can't thank you enough.
No, thank you. I mean,
I'm
a huge fan of the show, so I'm really, all the way from Port Harcourt, sometimes I actually tune in online to listen to the show.
Thank you.
I'm really happy that I was able to join in and join the conversation.
Thank you. We feel very honored, and we wish you the very best. Safe travels while you go back. We will continue to follow your work at Nguvu Collective.
Thank you.
And please continue to inspire the world, not just the young
Thank you.
people. I think the work that you're doing, as you listen to Mr. Wilson, he knew who you were, right? Even without knowing your name, he knew of the work you were doing. So don't stop doing what you're doing. We see you, we value you, we appreciate you on behalf of every Nigerian, on behalf of the leadership of this country. We thank you for the work that you do. And to our listeners who've tuned in today, thank you so much for tuning in on the show and being a part of this conversation. We hope you were as inspired listening to being a part of this show as we were, having this conversation today. And until we come your way again, same time, 4 p.m. Friday, this is Bella Ann Ndubisi signing off from the Office of the Citizen. Good afternoon.